and I saw one of his heads as they were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after it. Shalom. First off, give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bashem Yashai Bashem Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS. Salutes and honors to the elect, all the brothers across the four corners who are in truth and sincerity, the women, the children, and the confusion of faith who follow. So, as you can see, I wanted to do a deep dive on this one and get into the Roman Empire. The scripture I read was Revelation 3 and 3, describing the deadly wound being healed, which is the old Roman Empire, quote, dying out and then being reborn as America, as we see it and know it today. There are a lot of parallels between the two, and I'm not going to go into all of them. We know about you know the state houses being similar and the eagle, things of that nature. What I'm more so going to go into is the military and the maps. So with that being said, we're gonna jump right into it. Um, One of the scriptures that I feel characterizes the Roman Empire better than any of them is this excerpt in First Maccabees, the 8th chapter, and we're just gonna read this, and we'll go from there. This is First Maccabees chapter 8, verse 1. Now Judas had heard of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of enmity with all that came unto them. And they were men of great valor. It was told him also of their wars and noble acts which they had done amongst the Galatians, and how they had conquered them and brought them under tribute. Now, this isn't the Roman Empire that we know, um, them being men of great valor or valiant men. We wouldn't characterize them like that today, but that was the perspective that Judas Maccabeus had of them at that time. Now, when you go into it, um, we're gonna bit by bit we're gonna go into the maps, and we're gonna see the evolution of the Roman Empire. But like I said, this is his view of it during the mid 120, maybe probably 160, 170 some BC. Okay. Um, Verse 3. And what they had done in the country of Spain for the winning of the mines of silver and gold which is there, and that by their policy and patience they had conquered all the place, though it were very far from them, and the kings also that came against them from the uttermost part of the earth, till they had discomforted them and given them a great overthrow, so that the rest did give them tribute every year. Now, America is very similar to this, how it goes into other countries, conquering them, not only conquering them, but maybe, I'll just say, setting up their military bases, and also um, that league, going back to verse 1, making that league of enmity. So, let's what is their league of enmity? It's NATO. Okay, you have the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which consists of, let me see, since its founding, the admission of new member states has increased the allegiance from the 12 original countries to 30. So it's 30 member states in NATO, which when you go into Rome, and we're gonna bring this up here in a moment. Let me see. Try to get a good one. It's gonna kind of giving away the game here, but okay. Say you go into this, you can see all the different member states of the Roman Empire at this time, and it's the same. It's the same as the United States today. These, excuse me, all these different states are part of Rome. They all have a puppet set up in them, and they all report to Rome. Okay, let's go back to the scripture. Verse 5. Besides this, how they had discomfited in the battle of Philip and Perseus, king of the Cittims, with others that lifted up themselves against them and had overcome them. How also Antiochus the great king of Asia, they came against them. This is Antiochus the third, Antiochus the great, having 120 elephants with horsemen and chariots, and with a very great army, was discomforted by them, and how they took him alive, and coveted that he and such as reigned after him should pay a great tribute, and give hostages, and that which was agreed upon. Okay, so they even, after that's called the Treaty of Apamea. So they made a treaty that basically limited the military might of, you would say, Syria at the time, because that's where Antiochus reigned, and that's basically the same thing that happened to Germany to this day, and Japan as well to this day after World War II. They limited. They can't have any nuclear weapons. They can't even proactively go to war. They can reactively go to war, but Japan can't attack another nation. If they attack another nation, then they'll be in violation of that treaty. So, those are definitely similarities right there. Verse 8. And in the country of India and Media and Lydia, and of the goodliest countries which they had took of him, and gave to the king Eumenes. Moreover, how the Grecians had determined to come and destroy them, and that they, having knowledge of thereof, sent against them a certain captain, and fighting with them, slew many of them, and carried away captive their wives and children, and spoiled them, and took possessions of their lands, and pulled down their strongholds, and brought them to be their servants unto this day. It was told him besides how they destroyed and brought under their dominion all the kingdoms and the isles that at any time resisted them. So, I mean, this is speaking about, like I said, the strength of the Roman Empire. It really was similar to America. The way America is sitting on top of the world right now, Rome was sitting on top of the world. Okay, even in this time, when, let's see if we can catch it. So let me exit out of this. We're gonna pull up this first map, and this first map is gonna show us the different time periods of Rome. So this is in the AD. Let's let it reset. All right, so this is the infancy of Rome. You see how it's growing. Can I click on it? And it's growing, and its influence is growing. All right. So right there, before it said 40, that was about the time period that we're reading in, because all this land over here belonged to the Seleucid Empire, and this land down here belonged to the Ptolemaic Empire. But the majority of this land over here was the Roman Empire. Let's bring it up one more time. We'll let it play, and I'll show you. But right now, yep, right there. And now that's when they took over Syria and Judea and Egypt, and they rose from power from there. But let's get back in here. We're gonna finish this up real quick. Verse 13. Um, Verse 12. But their friends and such as relied upon them, they kept enmity, and that they had conquered kingdoms both far and nigh, insomuch as all that heard their name were afraid of them. And that reminds me of Isaiah 14, where it says, "Has thou become weak as we?" Why? Because America is built up to be this big bad bully, and it has this nuclear weapons. But now these other countries have the same power, the same nuclear weapons as America: Pakistan, North Korea, China, Russia, India, France, the UK, South America, South Africa, Slovakia. You know, all these different countries have the same nuclear capabilities. Iran, but that couldn't be rivaled back then. That's the only thing. That's really the only difference. That couldn't be rivaled back in the ancient days. You know, it was primitive weapons and sheer military might, sheer mass, sheer numbers. You were able to to win, to strike fear in your enemies, basically. And it's gonna mention it. We're actually it just mentioned it. Um, yeah, that their friends and such as relied upon them kept enmity, and they that had conquered kingdoms both far and nigh, insomuch as that had heard their names were afraid of them. So if you were the friend, then you was good. If you were the enemy, then you didn't want to hear here come the Romans. Why? Because they're known for taking land. They're known for invading. Okay, and this is, like I said, this is pre Julius Caesar, which we'll get into that here in a moment. But from they beat into Antiochus the Great. You know, that's something right there. His name was the Great for a reason. And they made him look like a punk, so to speak. And that whom they would help to a kingdom, those so I said also that whom they would help to a kingdom, those reign, and whom again they displace. Finally, that they were greatly exalted, yet for all this none of them wore a crown or was clothed in purple to be magnified thereby. And that's a great point, because they had it they didn't really have a royal family, like the so-called Queen of England, or a kingdom, or it was a republic. So you had the Senate, and it's going to mention that as well, and you had, for the most part, one or two rulers who ruled the the kingdom, and that's how it's set up today. You have the House of Representatives, you had the senators, the Senate, and you have a president and a vice president. Moreover, how they had made for themselves a Senate house wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulting always for the people, to the end that they might be well ordered, and that they committed their government to one man every year, who ruled over all their country, and that all were obedient to them, to that one, and there was neither envy nor emulation, uh, emulation among them. So that's a that's a good basis to tell from the ancient world how people looked at the Roman Empire. It's the same as people look at America today. So from there, let's uh let's jump to Revelation 17, and I'll start at 6. It says, "And I saw a woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered in great admiration." So that woman is America. All right, it says drunken with the blood of the saints. I don't have to break that down for you. The saints are the Israelites, the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans whose blood has been spilled in the land of America. Okay? And the angel said unto me, "Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee a mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which have 7 heads and 10 horns." Okay, so the woman is America, the beast with the 7 heads and 10 horns. That's what we're about to go over. Okay, that's NATO, the EU, um, the Roman Empire. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition, go into destruction. So it says the beast that is not, the beast that was, past tense, and is not, because the Roman Empire was a vast kingdom. It was a mighty kingdom, and then it was gone. As we seen in the depiction of the map, you have a strong land. Look at all that land, and then you have a divide, and then before you know it, is dwindling down, and then what? It's gone. It then is morphed into something else. Okay, it says, "And shall ascend out of the bottomless pit." The bottomless pit being Europe. Okay, because it's known as the bottomless pit. It doesn't have many resources, which is also why America was able to gain riches off of Europe, export all those different um, natural resources. It says, "And they dwell on the earth and shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. And they behold, and when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is." So, like I said, it was a strong kingdom and is not, because the kingdom went down. You went from the ancient Roman Empire to the Holy Roman Empire to you have the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, and then now you have America. Of course, you have the Renaissance period in there towards the end as well. But let's move on. Uh, it says, "Here's the mind which have wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth." Okay, and there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. You know what? Uh, we're gonna continue on this. I did want to make a point, but we're gonna continue on this. So let's see. There are 7 heads, or the 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and one isn't. Okay, so let's exit out of that, and we're going to go to this map. So this is a good map because it shows you the so 5 are fallen, right? We have Germania Inferior and Germania Superior, or Major and Minor, however you want to put it. This is Hispaniola. All right, that's 3. We have Greece down here. That's 4. And we have the right here. These are the Franks. It was known as Gaul back then. So those are the 5 that are falling. The one that is it says Britannia, but it's Britain. It's the UK, and one is yet to come. And I don't want to jump the gun on that scripture. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And that short space is here in America. Okay. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th and is of the 7th and going to perdition. So how is America of the 7? Okay, let's get that. So this is the 13 original colonies. Those are the territories of the 13 original colonies. So and this is comparable to that map that we seen with um, Rome. This one right here, you can see all the different states. You can see all the different territories that were conquered. These are all different territories that were conquered, and even this one are territories that was added afterwards. You know, you have Hawaii, you have all these little islands over here, Guam, um, Samoa, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands. All these are American territories still. Even though they're not, quote, part of the U.S., they are still American territory. America owns these countries pretty much. But this is what I wanted to get into. What does that say right there? It says contested with Great Britain. This is the land that Great Britain conquered when they came over here. This is why America is out of the 7 and is the 8th, because it sprang from Great Britain. Okay. Now there was a point that I wanted to make in Maccabees, because it speaks about basically being in league with Maccabees. Judas wrote this letter for that purpose. Let me jump down. Yeah, um, so Judas sent a couple people to Rome, and this is verse 20. It says, Judas Maccabeus with his brethren and the people of the Jews has sent us unto you to make a confederacy and peace with you, and that we might be registered with your confederates and your friends. So they basically wanted to be in league with them, to where if you go to war, we go to war. If you go to war, we go to war. Okay, and what did it say? It says, so that matter pleased the Romans well. And this is the copy of the epistle which the Senate wrote back again in the tables of brass and sent to Jerusalem, that that there they might have by them a memorial of peace and confederacy. So I'm not going to read the whole letter, but basically saying, verse 26, neither shall they, verse 24, if there come first any war upon the Romans, or if any of their confederates throughout all their dominion, the people of the Jews shall help them, and the time shall be appointed with all their heart. So if any state in Rome goes to war, the Jews were made to go to war with them. In verse 27, in the same manner also, if war first come upon the nation of the Jews, the Romans shall help them with all their hearing, or with all their heart, according as the time should be appointed them. And that is what's called collective security. So you have let's get the definition. Collective security can be understood as a security arrangement, political, regional, or global, in which each state in the system accepts that the security of one is the concern of all, and therefore commits to a collective response to threats to and breaches to peace. Collective security is more ambitious than systems of alliance security or collective defense, in that it seeks to encompass and to encompass and to encompass the totality of states within a region, or indeed globally, and to address the wide range of possible threats. So basically, if you go to war, we go to war with you. If uh, Yeah, so if you go to war, we go to war with you. If we go to war, you go to war with us. It's mutual. And that's exactly the same system that NATO has. So let's read this. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, uh, also called the North Atlantic Alliance, is an intergovernmental military alliance between 30 European and North American countries. The organization implements the North Atlantic Treaty that was signed on April 4th of 1949. NATO constitutes a system of collective defense whereby its independent member states, and what Rome had, it had independent member states. It's the same thing. Agree to mutual defense in a response to an attack by an external party. All right, if you attack us, we will all attack you. If you were attacked by someone, we will all attack that entity. We will all attack that country. Strength in numbers, which is why Rome was able to survive so well, because once they took you over, you assimilated into their kingdom, and now they can grow. Okay, so we let's move ahead a little bit longer in the timeline. So I want to just get this real quick, and so you can see comparable the size of the Roman kingdom, which is pretty much the size of America. If you take out all of this right here, which is the Mediterranean, you have land right there. You have land all down here and out there. Is pretty much with the same size as America, very close to it, very comparable. And you had roads. Let's see if I can get that. You had roads going all the way through it. So if you had to get from one city on the, say, on one side of the kingdom to the other side of the kingdom, if you wanted to go from Jerusalem to London, you can take a road, and it might take you several weeks to get there. I believe they said it would take like maybe literally 7 weeks to get from Jerusalem to London, but it could be done. It might take 2 weeks to get from Rome to the edge of Spain or something like that. Maybe a week to get from uh, Rome to Constantinople. So they didn't have fucking cars, but that was really the first interstate system. Is where our interstate system is. Um, it stands from. All right, it was our interstate system stems from Dwight Eisenhower, and it was a military system. That's why, in the time of Jacob's trouble, it's going to be very easy for them to lock it down, because All they have to do is close those exits and then funnel you to where they want to funnel you. They did it during the Freaknik, the last Freaknik. They would block off the interstates and funnel people into back into the city. And in Atlanta, you got to get on the interstate to go everywhere. Now, if you're from Atlanta, you can probably know the back roads. They didn't have GPS back then, so you couldn't go, through the city if you didn't know it, if you was an out of towner, and that's how they shut it down. It's going to be similar to that in these times when Jacob's trouble hits, as it says in Second Ezra, the 15th chapter, that a man shall desire to go into a city and not be able. Um, Really, that's the majority of the information I want to go over. Oh, Julius Caesar. So I actually did a lot of research on Julius Caesar over the past week. Um, he was a dog. I ain't gonna lie. He's an Edomite. Fuck that nigga. But as a military mind, he was a dog. He in his young life, he wanted to be great, and he actually when he was in his 20s, early 20s, maybe mid 20s, early 30s, he was actually kidnapped on a vessel and held for ransom by some pirates. He told the pirates to double it. You know, Matter of fact, tell my people to double it. Because once I get back, I'm gonna raise an army and I'm gonna come and get you. So they laughed at him. They doubled it. They paid it. He got free. They freed him. He raised an army and went on to the Mediterranean looking for pirates and was basically taking down pirates. They said that he would spoil them, take them down, take all their goods, sell them in slavery, and that's how he started becoming rich by taking down these various pirate groups. And he eventually found the ones who had him captive, and they were shocked, and he did the same thing to them. So that's how he got part of his fortune, but he had to repay. I believe it was not Pompey. It was the other guy, Crassus. He had to repay Crassus, which he eventually did. But in order to really magnify his name the way he wanted it to, he had to take down Gaul. So he was granted like 5 more years to go to war in order to take down Gaul. When he went into the land, he he made treaties. He sent them to all the different leaders of the tribes of Gaul, and was like, hey, we can do this the easy way, we do this the hard way, basically. We can be friends. When I come see you, you can just let me in, and you can come into the empire and enjoy the same benefits as everyone else. Some of them did, some of them didn't. The ones who didn't, we went to war. So he took down a lot of them like that, and then that's when he actually expanded and went into Britain, which I didn't know. So it was actually a good documentary that I was watching. So he went from the furthest points of the empire, fighting over here, and fighting up here, fighting over here, all the way up here. It was crazy. But then there was one guy who actually, I can't remember his name. Y'all forgive me. And matter of fact, I could probably find it. Um, That's him. That's him. So, Vercingetorix, I know I probably killed that name. He was a chieftain of the Gallic tribe at Verni, whose formidable rebellion against the Roman rule was crushed by Julius Caesar. Caesar had almost completed the subjugation of Gaul when this cat led a general uprising of Gaul against him in 52 BCE. So this dude, that's not his actual picture, of course, but um, this dude, he gathered all the tribes and they had a war. And it was crazy because, man, I'll pull this back up just for video's sake, but um so this guy was held up in his castle and they were starving him out, and he had reinforcements that were coming from their rear. So what Julius Caesar did, he built a like a wall around the castle so that no one in the castle could get out. And then he built a second wall around the troops so that no one outside could get in. Because if they would have built the wall, then they would have been surrounded basically. Because you got the people inside the castle, you got them, you know, outside the castle, but then you got the people behind you. So if they come from behind you, you can't fight two sides. So what they did, they encompassed the castle, then they encompassed themselves so that they could fight one at a time, basically. And then after that, they gave up, and then that was the complete um, conquering of Gaul and initiating that into the Roman Empire. Um, it's a lot of history, a lot of history. So this is did a lot of talking about the ancient Roman Empire, the pagan Roman Empire. Let's go into the Holy Roman Empire, which the Holy Roman Empire was actually ruled by Jake, starting with Septimius Severus. But and that's the um excerpt that I just spoke about. And this link is in the description. It's a lot of information in here. It's a lot of information. Um, Joachim, we're definitely uh, welcome to it. Before we let's take a pit stop at let's get this and then we'll go into that. So 23 says ancient Rome was a slave society. Slavery was deeply woven into the fabric of Roman society. There are several ways that people in Roman society could fall into slavery. When the Romans rebelled on the battlefield, they would often take their defeated enemies captive and sell them into slavery. People also become slaves due to failure to pay debts or as punishment for crime. Which, I mean, it's gonna. I'll keep reading. I'll keep reading. Roman slavery differed from American slavery in some important respects. Roman slaves could be of any race, and while American slaves generally performed manual labor, Roman slaves could sometimes be highly skilled, educated slaves from the Greek world. Um, Captured from the Greek world, were highly sought after for tutoring children and performing clerical work. So they're trying to differentiate. Maybe some people got treated better. It was a lot of bad, a lot of bad shit going on in Roman slavery as well as American slavery. So I didn't want to jump over that parallel, but let's jump down to the time of the Lord. As Rome expanded, the traditional homeland of the Jewish people at the eastern end of the Mediterranean came under Roman rule. Roman troops first invaded the area under Pompey in 63 BC, and after in 40 BC, it was ruled as a Roman client state, showed here in green, by King Herod. Now, we read that they're supposed to be in league with Rome, but that's why the scripture also says never trust thine enemy, because why are you invading us? Why are we, if we're supposed to be cool, how did this happen? There's a disconnect there, and I'm definitely I'm going to find that disconnect. Not on this lesson, but Lord's will, we find that disconnect, and we'll do a lesson on that. It says not long after Herod died, the Romans created a province of Judea, which was under Roman control for centuries after. The Jews had an uneasy place in the Roman Empire. Romans were suspicious of people who insisted on practicing minority religions, and between 63 AD and 153 AD, Jews staged three major revolts against Roman authority, which we know in 70 AD, you had the Romans come in and crack down, and you had millions of Israelites fleeing into Africa for refuge. It said the third rebellion led to a brutal crackdown by the Emperor Hadrian. One ancient history, it's like one ancient historian estimates that Romans killed 580,000 Jews to put down the rebellion, and many more were sold into slavery. Now, what does that sound like? 500,000 Jews killed in the rebellion. How many were killed in the Middle Passage coming over here? How many Native Americans were slaughtered? The Taínos, all the other different Latin tribes. How many were killed? How many were sent to slavery? That's a direct parallel. And Hadrian was a Jate. So it wasn't just Esau, but it was our people as well. So this is, what's known as the Holy Roman Empire. It's a little in the 300s, okay? So you still have, North Africa converting to Islam. Carthage was basically like a second Jerusalem for Israelites. That's why you have a lot of our people that were into that Islamic mind, because a lot of North Africa we dwelt in. We dwelt in all these cities. We dwelt in all the four corners. But this is like uh, like Washington D.C. is Chocolate City. This is like Chocolate City outside of Jerusalem for the Jews, basically. Caucasus Mountains. That's where you have Esau and whatnot. But for the Holy Roman Empire, Rome was not the quote capital. You have Constantinople, which is named after who? After Constantine. All right, and this is where Jake basically took over. This is where all the different basilicas, all the different. This is where the Catholic Church really stems from. This is where you have all those old churches in Europe. Let's see if we can forgive my spelling. I'm not going to try to. Let's see. Old churches in Europe. All of these. This is where those stem from this time period on up. Why? Because, like I said, before you had the pagan Roman Empire, Zeus, you know, Nike, you know, all these other different quote gods that they worship. But then you had the transition into the Holy Roman Empire, which they were still going off. That's a whole nother lesson. But this is how now you get all these different what's called a basilica. They also got a little bit more smart as well because they realized that defending all this territory in these times, like I said, you couldn't just send a fighter jet over there. You know, these territories, these lines, you have to be able to defend them because the people of this area could just come in, take it back, and then what are you going to do? It's going to take weeks, weeks on end for you to send someone to take it back, and by then they're set up and they're good. So let's get this. Take a little deep dive on this. This is Hadrian's Wall. All right, let's pull up a picture. And this is what it's. You can still see it till to this day. Doesn't look like much, but there's a like a dip right before you get to it. You know, they built a trench right before the wall. This might actually be a yeah. This is a better picture so that you get an idea on what it looked like back then. You know, there's levels. There's so many different levels. If you wanted to try to bring um, a force to it, they had to come uphill, and then there's a dip, and then there's a straight up wall. So this is Hadrian's Wall. So what about Hadrian's Wall? Why is it so unique? Hadrian, who ruled from 117 to 138 AD, was one of Rome's most interesting emperors. Most of his predecessors had sought glory by conquering new territory, steadily expanding the size of the empire. Hadrian had a different vision. He believed the empire was becoming overextended militarily, and immediately upon taking office, he focused on consolidating Roman control of the territories that had already been conquered. He withdrew from a few eastern territories conquered by his predecessor Trajan and negotiated peace agreements with rivals such as the Parthians the Parthians. One reflection of his shifting thinking was Hadrian's Wall, whose construction was begun in 122. Okay, over time, similar fortifications would be built around all the edges of the empire, transforming what had been a fluid frontier into a clearly defined border. The wisdom of Hadrian's decision became apparent after 142 when Hadrian's successor, Antonius Pius, conquered additional British territory and ordered a second wall built further north. The new wall was only manned for a few years before the Romans were forced to abandon the new territory and retreat to the border Hadrian had chosen. So And this is also the concept of the wall in Game of Thrones. If I have any Game of Thrones fans out there, but overall, I think that's really all I wanted to go into. You have trade. Let's check this out real quick, and is beautiful to see all these ancient names. I like seeing all these ancient names, what they were known at the time. The first century. This wasn't called the Indian Sea. The word India didn't exist at the time. You know, so these are the different trade routes that you had to go through. If you wanted to, here's move me out the way. Here's Rome. It says that they were abundant in wine. So if you're abundant in wine over here and you needed some steel or some cloth or something like that, then you would travel this route and get to where you need to go. And this is pretty cool. I like this. I'm a big if you haven't recognized, I'm big in maps and geography, things of that nature. So this is really pleasing to me. Hopefully, it's edifying to the body at the same time. You can see where general areas were fervent for spices, cinnamon, and slaves. And to this day, you had the pirates around the Horn of Africa, which what is that? That's God forgive me. This is uh the Babylonians. It's gonna kill me. I gotta Ethiopia. Thank you, Ethiopia. Yeah, the Ethiopians who you know they were pirates around this area, all the way to China. But I think that's. Ooh, I'd be remiss if we didn't go into this. The decline of the Roman Empire. You know, I guess this is going into the different leaders. And you got some that was killed by their troops, killed by his troops, died from the plague, probably murdered by his troops. Hey, you know, killed by his own troops. That's crazy, you know. And the wicked are in rule. I tell you, this is what I said. Constantine takes power and Christianizes the empire. Yeah, so we're gonna wrap it up. Lord's will, like I said, you were edified, and all the links are in the description if you want to, come back and visit this. Um, Also, if y'all leave a comment, let me know that y'all want to see more videos like this. I'll make more videos like this. Um, if you got through this whole lesson, the water, I appreciate it. And I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bashem Yashai Bashem Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS. Salutes and honors to the elect, all the brothers across the four corners who are in the truth, in sincerity, the women, the children, and the confusion of faith who follow. Shalom.